I knew once I got back on the field, the adrenaline started going, I'll be able to hang in there.
What was the injury?
My knee.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
I just felt something in it. Just had a hard time putting weight on it. Doc and I had a conversation there. Yeah, we did the test. I told him I was going back.
I sometimes see you.
Oh God, Lionel. You have been hurt. You have been hurt by somebody. That much is clear. Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Who hurt you?
Fantasy football good, Goon and Tooch. 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 Fantasy football good.
Touchdown.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. Fantasy Football Goon is a part of the Bears Barroom Radio Network. I'm your host, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and this is your Week 2 preview. Joining me this week is a special guest. It's Bears Barroom Radio Network founder and two-time Emmy Award winner, Aldo Gandia. Aldo, thanks you for stepping in for Tooch, man. I know he's in the Philippines, and we're glad to have you here.
Well, given that I won my Week 1 match in our league, I am really happy to be here. I can speak with some authority, but this fantasy football stuff happens. I could be back in the bottom of the standing, so good to get my performance out of the way early.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy is it's boomer bust, and your team snuck it out by I think half a point this week, man. That was a tight victory right there.
That is correct. My buddy Ryan Heckman must have looked at that that final on Tuesday morning and really got upset because I was down by some 20-plus points, I think, heading into that last game, and I was able to pull it out by a half a point. That's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm pulling up your matchup right now just to take a look at it because that's pretty brutal right there. Let's see right here. So you played, yep, there you are right there. You're the Dirty Shots. That's your team, right?
That's correct.
So yeah, looking at it here, it looks like you had Todd Gurley on Monday night, and he dropped almost.
I was expecting good numbers out of him, and I got a decent game out of him. And what was my total? 150.
155.54.
Yeah,
and
not bad.
And Ryan had 154.2. So just pulled it out.
That's got to hurt him tremendous because I think that's the third or fourth highest score in the league that week. To come out with an L is not a pleasant way to start.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow, especially at the start of the season.
The Tooch had a similar fate too, didn't he have like the second highest point score in our league?
Yeah, Tooch had the second most points in the league at 163.8, and he lost to the Baloney Pony Express with 181 points. Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. And that's just, a really bad omen when you score the second most points in the league and you end up playing the guy who gets the most points. So, Tooch, better luck next week. I don't know who you're playing, but hopefully it's not me because it might happen again to you.
Yeah, that's Tooch. That's been known to happen to Tooch from time to time. And speaking of the Tooch, he's in the Philippines, and we wish him all the best out there. And we really appreciate you stepping in, Aldo, and this is going to be a lot of fun. We'll run through all the games, talk about some of the players on each team that we like, and talk through the pick'em spread, who we like with the spread, and who we like to win. So I think it's going to be a good time.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man, and let's lead off with the first game coming up tomorrow on Thursday night. You have Thursday Night Football, the Ravens going to visit the Bengals in Cincinnati. And currently the Ravens are sitting as a 1-point favorite. They're coming off of a blowout against the Buffalo Bills, who looked absolutely lost on the field. So the Ravens defense obviously very good. The offense looked pretty darn good too. Bengals didn't look half bad, but I still like the Ravens in this game. They're a 1-point favorite. I think that's a no-brainer in my book. What do you think about this game, Aldo?
I agree with you. I think that the Ravens should win by about 6 points in this game. What I've learned about Andy Dalton is that he tends to struggle at home in primetime games, and which is why he gets kind of a. I actually think he's a pretty decent quarterback, but when you have those big games and you don't play well in them, then deservedly don't get the respect that you might think you should get. But I think the Ravens are a good bet on this game.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know one of my starts of the week last week was Alex Collins. He put up a bit of a dud. He started off with a touchdown. I was like, man, things are looking great. And then he had a couple fumbles, and he kind of got in the doghouse and didn't really play much after that. But I think he's going to redeem himself here. He's a really talented back, and I think you can start him with confidence this week. I know it's a little scary when you get benched in the second half of a blowout, but they were up big and they had no reason to risk him getting injured. So with that said, I think Alex Collins is a great play. The backup, Kenneth Dixon, actually got hurt pretty darn bad in that game. They expect him to be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So that only adds to Collins' value, in my opinion. So I think Alex Collins is a really good play in this game.
I agree. I noticed that you got him 16th on your Week 2 rankings, and might actually even up a little bit higher. You got Joe Mixon at number 13.
Yep.
I wouldn't hesitate to maybe flip-flop those two guys, but definitely a top 16 ranking for Collins for Week 2 is not bad at all. I agree with you. Collins should be a good play this week.
Yeah, I think so. And speaking of Mixon, he's another great play here. Obviously, I like him a little bit better than Collins, just because he's really involved in that passing attack with the Bengals. So Joe Mixon is a really talented guy, and as long as he's staying on the field and he's healthy, I think he's probably going to be a top 20 back as long as he's playing. So I have no problem starting him every week.
Yeah. The thing with Mixon is that the Ravens gave up 83 yards rushing this past week, about 3.8 clips. So Mixon's going to have a hard time, I think, finding some rushing lanes. But you're right. If you are in a PPR league, then Mixon is a good play because he should be good for at least a half dozen receptions.
Yeah, I really think he's probably going to have at least 5 or 6 catches in this game. So yeah, I think Collins and Mixon are the two guys to play here. I don't know if I'd really touch either quarterback. I mean, Dalton's been sketchy at best, and Flacco looked great last week, but the Bengals are a different defense than the Bills. So I would stay away from both of these quarterbacks in this one, and I think really the only other guy I would consider touching here is Michael Crabtree for the Ravens. He kind of got shut down last week, but I think it's only a matter of time before he starts catching touchdowns. But he does get a case of the dropsies once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about Tyler Eifert? What do you think his chances are in this game?
Well, he looks like he's finally healthy. So anytime you can see that, that's always good news. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Eifert, and Dalton's starting to look his way often again. So I think he's working his way back toward the top 10 tight end. I don't quite have him at that point right now. I'm trying to remember where I even ranked him this week. I think I had him ranked at 15. So I have him just outside, of the top 10, sitting at 15. I'd rather start guys like Jared Cook, who's a big waiver wire pickup we'll talk about later, and Jimmy Graham. But I think if you can see Eifert starting to build every week, I think he's worth a start. And if you're in a really deep league and you could have two tight ends or one in a flex spot, I think Tyler Eifert's a good play. I don't know if I would start him against the Ravens, but I think after this week, you can really start to see what Tyler Eifert's made out of.
Yep, I agree. Although I just, and it's just a gut feeling, but I got Eifert down for a touchdown in this game. I just feel like it's going to be one of those games where Dalton's going to look over the middle of the field to try to get his team back in it, and Eifert. Again, no no data behind it. I just got a gut feel that Eifert might score a touchdown. So I might have him actually. You do have him at 15. I might have him as a kind of a top 12 player, right behind Cook and Graham, who you have 11 and 12. And I know, like you said, we'll go over these in more detail. But I like Eifert's chances of coming away with 6 points and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big red zone target, and Dalton looks his way in the red zone. So I think there's a lot of value in Tyler Eifert. I think you just kind of got to wait and see before you give him the full start. Unless you're stuck. I mean, if you're stuck and you don't have one of those top 12 guys, by all means, give Eifert a start because he's got a ton of talent, and like we said, he's finally getting healthy, so that's what's important. I know you and I picked with the spread the Ravens to win. They're 1-point favorite. I think we both like the Ravens to win in this one, right?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good Thursday nighter, though. It can't be much worse than last week's. That was terrible.
Oh my goodness! Week 1 in the NFL is becoming a can't miss affair for games outside of your favorite team. Just the quality of play early in the season is just not what I recall it being in the past. But hopefully week 2 we'll see some better football games.
Yeah, I think we will. At least I hope to God we do.
Really?
So we're out of Thursday night, moving into Sunday. And the first matchup we're going to talk about here is the Carolina Panthers are going down to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Falcons are currently sitting as 6-point favorites in this game. I like the Falcons here. I think 6 points is fine, so I'm going to roll with the Falcons. But there's a handful of fantasy players in this game that we're going to talk about in just a second. But Aldo, who do you like with the spread in this one?
Yeah, with the spread, I still have to go with the Falcons. This Panthers team worries me, and now with the injury to Greg Olsen, Cam Newton's top target at tight end position, I see some bad things ahead for Carolina. I certainly don't think that they're good enough to go on the road to Atlanta and win the game outright, and even with them giving up 6 points. I don't foresee that happening. So, yeah, I'm putting my money on the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And you mentioned the injury to Greg Olsen. He broke the same foot that was giving him issues last season. And, they didn't say how long he's going to be out, but it sounds like it could be an extended amount of time. I imagine he'll probably miss the majority of the season. So that means it's next man up. So Ian Thomas, is the rookie, is going to get the start at tight end. So he's a guy that could potentially see a lot of value. So when you watch this game, keep an eye on Ian Thomas because he's a talented kid, and if he gets the targets from Cam Newton, if he gets a quarter of the targets that Greg Olsen got, he's going to have fantasy value here. So Ian Thomas, definitely a name to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have him quite as high, perhaps, as you do. I don't know. Let's see. Where do you have him on your list of rankings?
Who, Ian Thomas? I don't even think I ranked him this week. I didn't put him in my top 20.
Yeah, he's frankly not on my radar either, but I will put him on my radar and take a close look at his activity this weekend and see if he's a possible pickup down the line.
For sure. And there was another big tight end injury we'll talk about a little later, and his replacement, I think, is better than Greg Olsen's, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But on the Falcons side of the ball for this one, Devontae Freeman is questionable right now. Right now, if I had to guess, it kind of leans towards like he's not going to play. Keep an eye on the situation. But if Devontae Freeman is out, Tevin Coleman is a great play in this game. So monitor that situation, because I don't know if you watched the same game I did, Aldo, but on Thursday, Tevin Coleman looked better than Devontae Freeman.
Yes, he did. I did see a good portion of that game. I like Tevin Coleman, but I just have a bad feeling about this game. He did score a touchdown in week 1, correct? Tevin Coleman?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and so, but I just feel like the Panthers are going to be able to contain him. I see this game being more of an aerial type affair.
For sure.
See, I'm not as high on Coleman as perhaps you are.
Yeah, I mean, I have Tevin Coleman ranked at 34. If for some reason Freeman were out, I'd probably put him, around 25, 24. Either way, he's not a top play, but, if Freeman's out, he's going to get more touches and more catches. So just something to keep an eye on there. Julio Jones obviously went off last week. You're starting him no matter what. And then on the Panthers side of the ball, Cam Newton's a great start here. The Falcons' secondary didn't look super good last week at all. So you got to go with Cam Newton, and you got to roll with the Panthers' defense most likely.
Yeah, you've got Cam Newton second on your rankings, and that's probably a good call. I think there's going to be some garbage points there for him, trailing late and trying to play catch up. I foresee a fourth quarter score. So yeah, I kind of agree with you on Cam Newton. I think he's definitely a good play. I perhaps wouldn't have him as high as number 2, but I've got no argument with you.
Yeah, I think he's going to do a lot of damage with his legs in this game. You know, it looked, at least from last game, Tevin Coleman did some damage, and these Panthers, you know, the Falcons are susceptible against the run, so that's just something to keep an eye on, like I said. But Cam, good play in this game for sure. Matt Ryan's a sit for me. I'm kind of sick of watching him play, to be honest with you. He looked so lost last week. He was like a kid lost in Walmart, kind of running around, not knowing what to do. I mean, you know, he had a rough day at the office, to say the least, against the Eagles. And, you know, he's consistently inconsistent is what I say about Matt Ryan. You know, he's forcing the ball to Julio Jones, and teams are starting to take notice. So, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of turnovers for Ryan coming up very soon.
Yeah, you know, and again, I play this game with gut feels. I do suspect, though, that Matt Ryan is going to bounce back against this tough Carolina Panthers defense. He's at home. I just feel like, you know, he had that ugly debut, as you said, 21 out of 43, 253 yards. I just looked it up. And troubles in the red zone, but I just think that he's going to have a bounce back game. He's one of those quarterbacks when you least trust that he's going to have a decent game, he comes out and has a really good game. Yeah. So I'm kind of leaning towards considering Matt Ryan as a start, of course, depending on who your starter is. Hopefully you didn't draft Matt Ryan as your starter, but
right,
if you've
yeah.
got issues in your starting quarterback, I don't know if it's necessary to find a waiver pickup to replace Matt Ryan. I would give him a look as your emergency start.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's consistently inconsistent. So when you think he's going to do good, he does bad, and when you think he's going to do bad, he does good. So, you know, Matt Ryan's just kind of one of those guys that's all over the map. I know they have a lot to prove this week, especially after the red zone trouble. So I agree with you, Matt Ryan. It's going to be a fun game to watch regardless. So let's just scoot on into the next matchup here. The Colts are going down to play the Redskins. So the Redskins at home are currently 6-point favorites in this game. The Redskins looked pretty good last week. Alex Smith was commanding that team. Jordan Reed seems to be healthy again. And Adrian Peterson looks like the Adrian Peterson of old. So are the Redskins the real deal, Aldo?
I never bet on the Redskins. Every time I do, I end up losing. But I agree with you. They were impressive on Sunday. And Adrian Peterson does look like he's taking another drink of that fountain of youth. He looked really good out there. And I think they're using him in the right way. I think that, you know, that he's in a running back by committee. And so he'll see 15 to 20 touches. I like the way they used him in the passing game. So in the PPRs, Peterson is a really good play.
Yeah, I think he's a great, you know, flex play this week. And, you know, he's got a really good matchup, too. I mean, Adrian Peterson, you know, gets to go against the Colts, and they have a lot of trouble stopping the run, especially in the middle of the field. So I feel good rolling with Adrian Peterson this week if you have him. I think his matchup's too good to pass up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Andrew Luck play in his second game back from injury. He looked healthy and he looked like he was in command of this new offense that he's playing under. So this is actually a game that I wouldn't mind catching on the tube.
Yeah, and Jack Doyle, we were kind of confused in the offseason what they were going to do with the tight end, because they got Jack Doyle and they also have Eric Ebron, who came over from the Lions, and we were trying to figure out what they're going to do fantasy-wise with each one. Well, Jack Doyle was still heavily targeted. I think he had 10 targets and, you know, I think 7 or 8 catches in this game, and he didn't score a touchdown. Ebron did, but they still have fantasy value, both of those guys. I like Doyle better, but I think if you have Jack Doyle on your team, I think you're going to have to start him every week because Andrew Luck just loves him.
I think that's a good call. You've got him 7th on your rankings, and I agree with that. And you've got Ebron at 17. I might actually put Ebron a little higher. I like what they're doing with Ebron. They've got him lined out wide on as a wide receiver in some formations. So he's definitely going to be a big part of their pass offense. And both of those guys are good plays. In fact, I'm heavily considering starting Ebron this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a great red zone target. And Ebron, you know, he's one of those guys that he'll have huge games and then he'll just kind of disappear. I don't know how the Colts are going to use him, but either way, I think he commands attention, especially when you got a guy that big coming at you in the middle of the field.
Yeah, my feel on this tight end is that the best thing that happened to him was leaving Detroit. I think that that ended up being a toxic relationship. The expectations of him, I think he was a top 10 pick, number 8 overall, if I recall correctly. He was drafted way too high, and the fans in Detroit never really welcomed him, and he got off to a slow start, and he some of the problems were definitely his own. He's had issues with pass catching reliability, but I think that under the right circumstances, under the right offense, with some good teammates around him, I think Eric Ebron is going to be a good tight end in this league, and I think he's found the right situation for himself with Indianapolis. So I think he's a good play.
Yeah, I think they're going to kind of be like the Patriots of old with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. So I think both of these guys have fantasy value. If Ebron is available in your league, absolutely pick him up because he's got a ton of upside.
I like it. Yep.
He's available in far too many leagues, in my opinion. And we quickly got to chat about the run game for the Colts. Marlon Mack is also questionable for this game. They're not sure if he's going to play. Jordan Wilkins didn't look great last week, so I would avoid this run game if you can. It's kind of inconsistent right now. They need it to open things up for Andrew Luck, but right now I don't think you can trust it.
I agree. This is more of an aerial attack. I would not. Let me look over my notes here. I would not start any of these running backs for either one of these teams.
Yeah, I think for the Redskins, Adrian Peterson's the guy I would probably target here, and then maybe for a flex play if you want to get Chris Thompson catching passes out of the backfield. But those are the only two guys that I would even remotely consider in this game at the running back position.
Absolutely, you're right. My bad on that.
No, you're good. And we both like the Redskins to win, even with the being 6-point favorites. I think they win and they cover, so I think that's a pretty straightforward one. But I think it's going to be a competitive game.
Absolutely, should be a fun game.
And the next game on our list is the Texans going down to Tennessee to visit the Titans. This game's currently even, so it's straight up pick 'em. At this point, I really like what the Texans did against the Patriots last week. Their defense, even though they didn't win, looked pretty good, especially going against Tom Brady. So I like the Texans in this one. DeAndre Hopkins looked good, but you gotta start to worry maybe just a little bit about what's going on with Deshaun Watson, because he didn't quite look himself last week.
He did not, and I'm going to ask you, what do you suspect is going on with Deshaun Watson? I was not a big fan of him when he came out of Clemson. Yes, he had a stellar career at Clemson. I just felt like he wasn't going to be as good a NFL quarterback as some of my cohorts did at Bears Barroom. And he proved me wrong last year before his injury. He was putting up excellent numbers. He looked like he was the second coming of, the man upstairs, the good Lord. But yeah, this season it's not looking really good for him, and I think there's reason to be concerned. You have any inkling at all as to what's going on with him?
Well, at least from what I was watching, I watched a lot of that game, and it just kind of seemed like it was mental stuff to me. I think he was maybe not fully comfortable with himself, or maybe he got in his own head a little bit. But he had room, he had time. I mean, he was running for his life a little bit here and there, but he looked as explosive as he used to. His legs looked fine. I think maybe he just needs time to get comfortable again. And I think a matchup against the Titans is kind of what the doctor ordered. They have a really good run D, but they're susceptible against the pass. So I really think that he's going to have to use his arm for them to win this game.
Yeah, I am looking at NFL.com, and according to them, he was hit a total of 11 times in that game, which ranks second behind Matt Ryan being hit 12 times. So, yeah, there are definitely some issues with the offensive line there, and being away from NFL action and perhaps not having certain weapons. You're gonna have a tough time coming back. We'll see if he's got a bounce back game this week. It's going to be if you drafted Deshaun Watson, this is a key game to kind of gauge whether you can rely on him the rest of the season or not. Because if he gives you another bad performance, then you really need to be looking at who your backup quarterback is, and also down the line at potential waiver pickups. I don't know who you would drop. I wouldn't advise dropping Deshaun Watson, but maybe dropping somebody else on your team and picking up a third quarterback until the quarterback situation resolves itself with your squad. So it's just one of those situations. You and I know, Joe, that you win fantasy football championship by working the waiver wire during the season.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need to do some unorthodox things like adding a second defense to your roster, or adding a third quarterback, or going short on receivers to bolster up your running backs and stuff. Sometimes you're forced to do those things. And so keep a close eye on what Watson does this week and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason I ranked him so low, I think I have him ranked at 11 this week. I think the reason I moved him down is because this Titans defense is really good against the run. Lamar Miller is not the greatest back in the world, and they really couldn't get the run game going too much last week. So if they can't get that run game going, Watson's in trouble.
Yeah. You know, are we going to talk in detail about your rankings?
Yeah, I mean, we can go into them whenever we want.
Because I'm looking at you do have Watson at 11th, followed by Russell Wilson, who's up against the Bears, of course, and then Jimmy Garoppolo, who had a really tough game opening week at Minnesota, Matt Ryan, Stafford, Goff. So my point here is that, you know, once you get outside the top 10, and you've got this week you've got Cousins at 8, Brady at 9, Mahomes at 10. Once you get outside the top 10, all of a sudden, you know, the question marks really start to happen here, and the play of guys like Stafford, who I drafted in the two fantasy leagues that I'm in. I drafted him as my number one quarterback, so you know I'm in trouble.
Yep.
And then I drafted Garoppolo as a backup in one of my leagues, and so I'm in real trouble in that league. So it's an interesting opening week with what's happening with NFL quarterbacks, and are you going to get the play outside the top 10, outside of the top 12 guys? Are you going to get decent play out of other quarterbacks the rest of the way? I suspect you are, and that this was kind of an anomaly what we saw in week one, and that we'll see quarterback play going down the line, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think you gotta, you know, don't hit the panic button just yet. You know, I think these guys they've been proven that they can get it done. Garoppolo was great last year. He had a tough first matchup against the Vikings, which are arguably the best defense in the league. Stafford, I can't explain that one. The Jets just owned him. He didn't have a good day at the office, but both of these guys can get it done. So don't hit the panic button just yet, but definitely keep an eye on waivers. Definitely.
It is the key to victory.
Yeah, and getting back into the Texans game here. So obviously Hopkins and Watson. And Watson's a guy, if you don't have to start him, I wouldn't. If you have other options, I would start guys like Phillip Rivers or Andrew Luck over him. So if you have those guys, you know, fire them up. A good bye week replacement this week is Tyrod Taylor for Cleveland, going against the Saints, who got absolutely torched last week. So there's a guy who's available in like 99% of leagues, so could be a good option for you to fill in. But obviously DeAndre Hopkins, you're going to start him. And there was a big injury actually on the Titans last week, so that's a good thing for us to talk about here. Tight end Delaney Walker, who in my opinion is a top 10 tight end in the league, is out for the season with a broken ankle with ligament damage. So that's a huge blow for the Titans. And their rookie, or actually he's not a rookie, he's a second-year player, Janu Smith is going to be the starter, and he's a big guy. He's super talented. So if you can get a claim in on him, I don't know if you're going to be able to wait until after Sunday, because this kid is really talented. And we all know Marcus Mariota likes to rely on the tight end a lot. So Janu Smith is a great pickup. He's a really talented kid if you want to look up some of his film, but it's definitely a name to keep an eye on.
He is a guy to keep an eye on. I would be a little reluctant to start him this week until you get a better test sample.
For sure.
he's a good pickup, but he might be in for a tough matchup with Honey Badger lined up on the other side of the defense there. So interesting. If you need some tight end help, you got Delaney Walker and you need a replacement, then Smith is definitely a good pickup. But in terms of starting him, hopefully you've got some better options on your roster.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's great guys on waivers too for this week if you need to pick somebody up. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a great option in Jacksonville. He's kind of a boomer bust guy, but he scores touchdowns, and the New England defense is susceptible against the tight ends. So Austin Seferian-Jenkins is out there, Benjamin Watson with the Saints, and a guy we talked about earlier, Tyler Eifert's out there in a couple leagues. So those are all guys that you can easily plug in this week if you need tight end help.
I agree. Did you mention Charles Clay with Buffalo?
I did not mention Charles Clay. He's one of my sits for this week. I think he's a good option moving forward once Josh Allen gets comfortable. But he put up a big stinker last week. 2 targets, 0 catches for 0 points. So Charles Clay is a guy that you can keep an eye on because a lot of people dropped him or he's staying on waivers. But if Josh Allen looks his way, definitely a guy to consider picking up next week.
Cool. Okay, I was actually considering him for a waiver pickup, so I was going to do some homework on Charles Clay, so you've helped me out there. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. And I actually have my Start 'em and Sit 'em article. It's going to be coming out soon, so you can see my little bit about Charles Clay in there as a sit for this week. But on the Titans side of the ball, Mariota is actually questionable for this game. You're probably not going to start him anyway. The Texans defense is very good. They're probably a top 5 play this week. I'm trying to remember where I ranked them. I think I ranked them at like number 3 or 4. So yeah, the Houston defense very good. Secondary is great, and obviously you got J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney right in the middle. You got the Honey Badgers. So yeah, watch out because this Houston Texans defense is great the rest of the year. We mentioned it earlier. They have the easiest schedule in football after they played New England in Week 1. So Texans defense is a must ride or die the rest of the year, and for that reason, I like the Texans in this game.
Yeah, and also the Titans tackle Taylor Lewan. I believe he's questionable for this game. I mean, that's not official yet, but he got banged up in Week 1's game, and so that could be an issue for the Titans as well. I'm with you on this. This is Texans all the way. And it's interesting because I've actually looked at a couple of reports and some people are predicting the Titans in an upset, but I like the Texans in this game. I'm laying money on them.
Yeah, that defense is too good, and especially if that tackle is out, I expect J.J. Watt and the boys to be feasting. So watch out for the Texans this week, and that's going to be a fun one to watch. The next one here, though, is a good one. The Buccaneers had a big upset last week against the Saints. Ryan Fitzmagic having a party, kind of going crazy, dropping touchdowns and passing yards everywhere on the field. But they got to go against the Eagles. Eagles are going to visit them in Tampa Bay. Bucs at home. Eagles going in on the road. They're 3-point favorites against the Bucs. Can the Bucs recapture that magic from last week, John? Or not? Geez. Aldo?
I don't know, man. This Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of the most interesting NFL stories since I have been following football in the late 60s. This guy, I mean, besides being like genius level intellect, at times he looks like a Hall of Fame quarterback, and then at other times he just looks like, why is he on an NFL roster? He's
right.
Up and down career, and then who could have foreseen the type of game he had Week 1 of the 2018 NFL season? True magic. This is an incredible story. Nick Foles versus Ryan Fitzpatrick in a matchup on Week 2. These two guys could be fantasy darlings, or they could be two huge busts this week. It's an incredible story. Will Fitzpatrick have a good game against this Eagles defense? I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, I've doubted this guy in the past, and he's proven me wrong. Did you have any inkling at all that he was going to put up these kind of numbers for Week 1?
I did not. To be honest with you, I thought he was going to have a bad game, but he did exactly the opposite. He just torched that Saints team, and I mean, the Bucs didn't play much defense in that game either, but they just had the better offense.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Now, the spread on this is the Eagles are only giving up 3, but it's at Tampa. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm still going with the Eagles to cover that spread. I think they're going to post about 4 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Eagles are going to be much better this week. I think they're going to be more polished. And Nelson Aguilar is a huge, great play here at wide receiver. He saw double-digit targets in the season opener. Alshon Jeffrey's still out, and the Buccaneers defense got absolutely smoked by the Saints last week. So Aguilar is a great wide receiver 3 or a flex play, and I think his targets are going to stay high in the double digits. So anytime you're getting double-digit targets as a wide receiver, you're a guy that's going to start every single week.
It's a must start, and I also anticipate a big game out of Zach Ertz and Jay Ajayi, who had an excellent week 1 performance.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys are your fantasy must starts in this game. Jay Ajayi, Nelson Aguilar, and Zach Ertz. I think they've got some really good matchups against this Bucs defense.
No doubt about it. And I think on the Bucs side of the ball, the only guy I'm considering is Mike Evans. He absolutely went off in the opener, and he's just got too much talent to sit on your bench. I know that, Eagles defense is good, but you're rolling with Mike Evans, ride or die.
Absolutely. He's my number 1 receiver on one of my teams, and he's a must start every single game. I don't care who he's playing up against. And yes, he's got a tough test this week, but I expect him a minimum of 50 to 60 yards and probably a good look for a couple of targets in the end zone. So, and at the same time, if he ended up with a 100-plus yard receiving, I wouldn't be surprised by that, because just the phenomenal talent that he is. So Mike Evans is definitely a must-start.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, the Falcons moved the ball against the Eagles. They just couldn't get it in the end zone. So Mike Evans definitely going to get some yardage in this game. So, but besides that, I'm not touching any of the other Buccaneers.
I think that's a good call.
So we both like the Eagles here, and we're staying away from almost all the Bucs except for Mike Evans.
No brainer.
Yep, and the next game here has got 2 exciting offenses. The Kansas City Chiefs are going down to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Steelers are currently sitting as 5-point favorites in this game. I still like the Steelers with the 5-point favorites being at home. But what do you like in this game, Aldo?
This is going to be one of the more fun games to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And if the weather is good, I think you can bet on, I don't know what the over-under is, but bet on the over if the weather is good, because I'm not expecting much of a defensive showcase in this game.
Probably not.
I like the Steelers to cover in this game at home against Kansas City. This Chiefs defense is really bad. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, this Patrick Mahomes kid, he had a really fun game to look at in his 2018 debut. I expect him to have maybe 2 to 3 touchdown passes in this game. This could be a really good test of a veteran quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, versus a young emerging talent and Patrick Mahomes. This should be a great duel.
Yeah, both quarterbacks are top 10 plays this week for me, and I think you got to roll with them if you have them on your roster. But for me, my start of the week, and you'll see this when I put out my article, is James Conner, running back for the Steelers. With Le'Veon Bell, as long as he's out, Conner's going to be a top 5 running back in my book. He gets to go against the Chiefs defense you just mentioned. They're absolutely terrible. They were torched by the Chargers last week. The Chargers ran for 104 yards, and they threw for 424. So this Chiefs defense is horrendous. Conner was involved in every single aspect of the game. He rushed for 135 yards. He caught 6 passes for 57 yards, and he scored 2 touchdowns. So James Conner is an absolute monster. He's going to be great in this game. Look for more of the same in week 2.
Yeah, this is one of the classic fantasy stories where the number 1 running back, a stud running back, is either injured or is a holdout, and here comes the understudy, and all of a sudden a star is born. And the thing about Conner, definitely Le'Veon Bell is going to play this season, whether he comes back after 3-4 games or whatever. He'll play, and he'll probably resume his number 1 starting job as the guy getting 20 to 30 touches a game.
Yeah.
And Conner will see limited action. But the thing about Connor is you got to ride this hot horse. It's not just against Kansas City, but it's the following week against the Buccaneers. It's against the Ravens at home after that. And if he's still the number one running back with the Steelers, because Bell is still out, you play him against the Falcons in October. Yep. So this Connor is a great story. I am really, really, really hard on myself that I let him get by. This is the type of pickup that can win you fantasy football championships.
That's right.
Those people like Air Jer in our league picked him up and started him, which is why he collected the most points in our league. It was a huge pickup for him. Yep. Got him the close victory over the Tooch. That's just great fantasy football management and bad for us who didn't make it a waiver claim for Connor as soon as it was clear that Bell was not going to be starting in this season.
Yeah, who would have thought, man? I sure didn't. I picked him up in one of my leagues, but man, I would like to have him right now. Man, he's looking real good. And,
really?
Obviously they have the number one receiver in football, too, in Antonio Brown, arguably. He's a great start here. I think I got him ranked at number 3. Obviously the KC defense is terrible. Antonio Brown's an easy shoe-in for at least 25 points this week, probably more. So, especially in PPR leagues, Antonio Brown, I don't need to tell you to start him. He's amazing. You can roll with him every single week. And then Juju Smith-Schuster is also a great play here. I have him inside the top 20. I have him at number 18. He looked really good last week too, man. So this receiving core in Pittsburgh is very exciting, and I like both these guys to finish the season as top 25.
Yeah, and don't forget Tyreek Hill. He's a great play this week.
Oh yeah, yep.
He had an excellent week 1.
Understatement.
How about it? I think it was like about 20 minutes past the hour when the Sunday game started, and already Tyreek Hill had so many fantasy points. I was thinking to myself, holy cow, I hate to be playing against this guy this week. And he's just a great player, and he and Mahomes are just really going to take advantage of their partnership and put up a lot of fantasy points.
Oh yeah, and Mahomes has got a cannon for an arm, so that Tyreek Hill's gotta love that. There's going to be a ton of deep touchdowns all year long. Alex Smith did not have the arm that Mahomes has, so I think you're really going to see Tyreek Hill have a great season, and I think you're going to see a lot of what happened on Sunday throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Mahomes is a kid that just impressed the heck out of me watching his college tape. This guy, he has all the mechanical flaws that concern quarterback coaches and so forth. He throws off the back foot. His weight is that way. But he's got that magical quality. He makes these crazy throws, and all of a sudden it's a 60-yard touchdown with the ball in the air for all 60 yards. And he's just a really special kid, and you put him with a guy like Tyreek Hill who can create separation, who can, if Mahomes is running around, he's going to find Hill downfield. Yeah, these two guys are going to really be a hit this football season.
It's going to be fun to watch. This is one of my top games for this week, man. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be close, but I think the Steelers pull it out. And,
I agree.
And the next game here is two teams that I was kind of surprised pulled off victories last week, in the Dolphins and the Jets. The Dolphins going to visit the New York Jets. Sam Darnold looks surprisingly efficient in his first start, aside from his opening pick 6. But their opening is 2.5-point favorites at home against the Dolphins. There's not a whole lot of fantasy love in this game. There's some guys to like Kenny Stills went off for the Dolphins last week. I think he's probably a pretty decent play here, and Kenyon Drake is another good play. On the Jets side of the ball, Isaiah Crowell went for over 100 yards last week. He's a guy you got to start thinking about. And Sam Darnold's a guy you really got to think about as a backup quarterback, because he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I had reservations about Darnold coming out of college, but having seen him in the preseason there's some things about his mechanics that I like. I think he's the type of quarterback who's going to have an up and down rookie season. He's going to have games like he did in week 1 where he threw his first pass was an interception, but then he settled down and had a solid outing. And I think he's going to have an up and down rookie season, but I think that this guy is somebody to keep an eye on. If you've got a dynasty league and you picked up Sam Darnold, I think you're going to be in really good shape.
Oh, yeah.
Probably aren't going to win a championship with him as your starting quarterback in his rookie year, but down the line, this guy it's got all the makings to be a really good, solid quarterback. So, and you know what, the guys surrounding him with the Jets, they looked better than I expected.
I agree.
So these guys could surprise from a fantasy standpoint. I mean, when I prepare for a fantasy season, I look at teams and their offensive capabilities. And frankly, I had the Jets down in the low 20s, but I could be really wrong about that. They could end up being a top, in the late teens, 18, 19 in terms of offense. We'll see moving forward, but
yeah,
they really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, Quincy Enunwa really surprised me. He looked really good at receiver, so he's definitely a guy that if he's on waivers, you might want to consider adding him because he's a really quality, at least as of week 1, he's a quality wide receiver 3. And, this Jets defense looks surprisingly good too. So I don't know if I would go pick up the Jets defense just yet, but, they've got a lot of potential after what I saw.
Yep. You know what? And I like the head coach with the Jets, whose name is escaping me right now.
Todd Bowles?
Yes, Todd Bowles, I think he's been dealt a tough hand from a player personnel perspective, but perhaps he's got the players now and he's got that locker room under control. We might see some good things out of his team. For me, he's kind of in a do or die year for himself. If he doesn't get some positive results out of his team, he might be out of a job. So we'll see how the team responds to his leadership.
Yeah, they have a lot to prove, and I think this is kind of one of those games that they can keep building on that momentum from week 1. So they're 2.5-point favorites. I like the Jets at home. You on the same page with me, Aldo?
I am indeed. I wish I could disagree with you so we could have a good fight, but but we're thinking alike here.
Awesome, and let's scoot into the next game here. The Chargers put up a ton of points last week, but they couldn't get the victory. They're going down to play the Bills, who have Josh Allen at quarterback change, rookie Josh Allen getting his first start against that tough Chargers defense. Chargers currently sitting as 8.5-point favorites, even though they're the road team. I'm still taking the Chargers here. That Bills team looked absolutely horrendous last week, and I think Phillip Rivers is a great play. He's going to probably blow up that Bills defense again.
I just mentioned that you kind of look at teams from a fantasy perspective to see the weapons they have, and I kind of rank them. Buffalo is number 32.
Oh boy,
this is just putrid. And if you were going to rank suffering football fans, Buffalo might be at the top. They've had a long history of disappointment, and I think it could hit rock bottom. Them and the Detroit Lions could be hitting rock bottom this season. There's just not a lot to root for with this Buffalo team.
Can you believe that they were a playoff team last year?
Yes! How does that happen?
I mean,
like that. I don't get it.
They don't look like it now, I tell you that much. So, yeah, I think the Chargers take this one easily. So you're starting Phillip Rivers. You're easily rolling with Melvin Gordon, who absolutely went off last week. Keenan Allen's a great start here. He's top 10 wide receiver. Antonio Gates is he's more of a flyer at tight end if you need someone because of an injury or if you're playing in DraftKings or daily fantasy. Antonio Gates is a red zone guy. He's kind of hit or miss, especially missing all of training camp. But I think he's a guy you definitely got to keep an eye on because he's available in every single league that I'm in right now.
Yeah. Did you mention Ryan Tannehill?
I did not. I did not talk about Ryan Tannehill in the last game, but he's still got a lot to prove for me.
He had a decent game week 1, 20 out of 28, 230 yards. He did throw 2 picks with his 2 touchdowns. I think this is a really good matchup for him. Again, he's not a number 1 quarterback by any means, but if you're having trouble with your number 1 quarterback because of injury or a really bad matchup, and you've got Tannehill on your roster, I think he might be a good start for you this week.
Yeah, he's a guy to keep an eye on for sure, and even if you don't start him this week, he's one of those guys you can kind of stash if you have to, because he's got a lot of good matchups towards the middle of the season. So keep an eye on Ryan Tannehill. I agree with you, but I don't know if I'm feeling as good about Josh Allen on the Bills. That Bills team is kind of hapless right now. They've got Kelvin Benjamin, they got Charles Clay, but they had a whole lot of stinker performances last week, and I don't think you can trust those guys just yet.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
So yeah, I wouldn't touch anyone on the Bills. I don't even think I would touch Shady McCoy here. If you have him, you probably have to start him, but Shady didn't look so good last week. That offensive line was not doing much at all, and the Chargers defense is pretty good too. So if you have Shady, keep your expectations in check, because I'm not expecting much out of him this week at all.
Yeah, Shady was on my do not draft list this year just because of the problems he's having off the field, and he's an aging running back. I wasn't going to touch McCoy unless he fell to me in late second round or early third round. And even then, I would have been really cautious about drafting him. And I think that my suspicions about McCoy just not delivering the goods this season are going to pan out. If you drafted McCoy this year, I would start talking trade with people, just start planting the seed. Oh, I got Shady McCoy here. He's got come up with some BS. He's got a great schedule coming up or something. But try to load Shady McCoy, because I'm not expecting good things out of him.
Yeah, I would avoid him. He was on my do not draft list too. He's getting to that age where he starts to decline, and he doesn't have a good O-line and doesn't have a good offense, so you can't really expect much out of him at this point. So avoid at all costs. I like the Chargers in this game, even as 8.5-point favorites. So roll with the Chargers. Start as many Chargers as you can. They're looking very, very good.
I'm with you on there. I think the Chargers are probably going to win this game by 15 points, so don't worry about the spread. Go with LA.
I'm with you. And the next game here is very important for us Bears fans. The Vikings going down to play the Packers in Green Bay. This game's currently even, so there's no spread. It's straight pick 'em at this point. Aaron Rodgers, questionable for this game. It came out today that he's got a knee sprain. That's the extent that they gave us. And they're kind of evaluating whether or not Rodgers is going to play in this game. Regardless, this Vikings defense is really good. And, I'm still taking the Vikings here. They looked good with last week with Kirk Cousins, and the Packers secondary was very susceptible in the first half of that game on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this at Bears Barroom. The Bears were outcoached by Mike McCarthy, and I don't think that's going to happen with Mike Zimmer. I think he's going to come in with the game plan and his offensive coordinator, the guy they got from Philadelphia, the quarterback coach. His name escapes me right now, but I think he's going to put together the kind of game plan that's going to expose the Packers' weaknesses on defense. I like the Vikings here at Green Bay to win outright and cover whatever spread they might come up with. Like you said, it's off the board right now, but I'm thinking the Vikings in that tough defense, and Cousins did look pretty decent in week 1. I like the Vikings.
Yeah, and I think Dalvin Cook is poised to have a real good breakout game here. Green Bay is very, they're not great against the run. I think if Jordan Howard would have ran a few more times, he probably would have had a handful more yards. So I think Dalvin Cook is going to be utilized quite a bit here. He's a top 10 start. I got him at number 10. I think if you have him, you got to roll with him, because he's going to put up, I think, a handful of points against this Packers team.
My only concern about Dalvin Cook, and I have him in one of my leagues, I drafted him in the second round, which I was really ecstatic about, because it was a late second round pick for me. My only concern is that this Vikings offensive line suffered yet another injury. I'm forgetting who the player was, but they're banged up, so we'll see what that does for Cook in terms of finding holes in the run game. But he is going to pick up a lot of points in this passing attack. Cousins was hitting him with a lot of dumb passes and so forth, and he's great at yards after the catch, at yards after the reception. So he's definitely a good play, but his ceiling might be a little lower because of this offensive line. But we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep an eye on that situation. And obviously, if you have guys like Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs, these are great starts against that Green Bay secondary. I'm pretty sure I have Diggs in the top 15. I think I got him 14th. And I've got Adam Thielen at number 10. So both these guys, you have to start them. Thielen's better if you're in a PPR league, and Diggs is a little bit better if you're in a standard league. But either way, these guys are going to be heavily targeted in this game, and I think they're going to put up some fantasy points for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that Cousins is going to miss any of those receivers if they're wide open, and I'm taking a shot at Mitch Trubisky right now. So I've looked at this video of Trey Burton open down the middle of the field a number of times today, so that's embedded into my mind, and some people are Trubisky should have never thrown that ball because it never would have got there. Trust me, a good quarterback would have done that, but I am digressing here. Cousins is going to have a good game, and he's in good hands with Thielen and Diggs. Those are good starts.
Yep, and you got a big question mark with Aaron Rodgers. If you have him, I mean, you're going to start him regardless if he plays, but you don't know how well that knee is doing after, getting banged up, and he was on painkillers because I'm sure you saw his eyes at the end of that post-game interview. His eyes were about as buggy as someone who just got dilated, so...
How true is that? Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting, too, because I think what the Packers will do is try to max protect for him as much as possible. So the running backs in this game for the Packers, they're going to be in there simply to chip block and to pass protect. I don't expect much out of them, maybe a few dump passes, but I would not start any of the running backs for the Packers here. I think that their wide receivers are good plays, despite the fact that Rodgers is one of those quarterbacks who tends to avoid the opposing team's best cornerback. So whoever Xavier Rhodes is going to line up against, it'll probably be Davante Adams. You might not want to expect a huge game out of Davante Adams.
Mm-hmm.
I still think you probably have to start him depending on your roster.
Yeah.
But I do expect other players in this Packer roster to come forward if Rodgers is your starting quarterback. Now, if Deshaun Kaiser is starting this game, then I probably wouldn't start anybody in the Packers roster, again, depending on your fantasy roster.
Right, yeah, I think for me, Davante Adams is the only guy. He's going to get a lot of volume. I have him ranked at number 9, but that's if Rodgers plays, so... besides that, I mean, Jamal Williams, their top running back, I got ranked at 30, so I would avoid, like you said, at all costs. I like the Vikings to take this one, and I think Jimmy Graham is, a decent play at tight end. I think I got him ranked at like 12 or 13 or something, but I would avoid as many receivers on the Packers end as you can. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of offense in this game. I think it's going to be, maybe for the Vikings, but I think the Packers are going to struggle.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And the next game here is a real interesting one for me. The Browns are playing the Saints in New Orleans, and the Browns are getting 10 points. The Saints are 10-point favorites in this game. So with that, I think I got to take the Browns because that offense is explosive. And, I mean, they had to fight the elements last week, and they still put up 21 points.
Yeah, this Saints defense got off to a bad start last week.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, this is going to be points galore here. The 10 points is a lot. I didn't realize it was that much. Last time I looked, I had it at 8.5. Mm-hmm. So it's 10. Wow.
That's a lot of points.
I'm still taking the Saints because it's at New Orleans and it's so difficult for a young team to go in there and play well. I don't know. I'm gonna. This is like Mike North says. This is one of those games you don't touch. And I hate to say that. This is a game. typically you would touch with the Browns because you just don't have confidence they can cover any spread.
Yeah.
But in this case, I probably would not touch this game. But if you force me to, I'm going to take the Saints and to win the game, obviously, and to cover that 10 points.
Yeah, I'm taking the Browns to just cover the spread and Saints to win. But there's still a lot of fantasy guys you're going to want to touch in this game. It's going to be fantasy points explosion. So you got, Jarvis Landry's obviously a must start. He's a PPR machine. I think he had like 13 targets last week. And then I think even Josh Gordon's a great start here. He got his first touchdown after whatever it was, 2.5, 3 years last week, and it was a beautiful catch. So I think he's going to get involved a lot in this game. And on the Saints side of the ball, obviously you're rolling with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is my number one wide receiver this week. I think he had 16 grabs last week for like 180 yards and a touchdown. So Michael Thomas is probably one of the best receivers in the league, and he's my number one for this week.
Yeah, Michael Thomas could end up in being number one wide receiver fantasy-wise at the end of the season. He is really looking like he's going to have a spot season. I'm with you on all those starts. I'm trying to think if there's a sleeper start somewhere in case somebody needs a waiver pick.
Yeah.
But I'm looking through my notes here. I can't find anybody. But if you've got Saints players on your fantasy roster, start them this week. And if you've got Cleveland Browns players on your roster, start them this week. And if you don't have any Cleveland Browns players on your roster, look at the waiver wire and see who's there. But again, this Saints defense did not look good in week one. It's going to be a fantasy feast for us players. So do your homework. Research it's
gonna be awesome. And I forgot to mention I have Alvin Kamara as my number one running back for this week too. So tons of fantasy points in this game, and I do have one sleeper in this game, and it's a tight end. Benjamin Watson for the Saints is available in about 98% of leagues right now. I imagine he's at least going to have a touchdown in this game. So Benjamin Watson's a pretty sneaky play this week, and I think he's worth a start.
Yeah, you've got him on 14 on your list here. I'm looking at that now. This is the same Benjamin Watson that was playing when I was a kid, right? I mean,
yeah, he's been around forever.
Long time. So good for him. I'm glad that he's still out there. And that probably is a good sleeper start.
Yeah, and a guy to keep an eye on too is Tyrod Taylor. Once he got going in that second half last week, he looked a little bit better. So keep your eyes on him because he could be a good backup streaming quarterback if you need him, depending on how that offense starts to take off.
Yeah, I tend to stay away from quarterbacks like Taylor, where you have a young rookie quarterback like a Baker Mayfield. The fans are saying, start Mayfield, and Taylor's in a situation where if he makes a mistake, he's got to look over at the bench and see if he's going to be pulled and so forth. But you're right, he did look impressive week one. If you need a quarterback fantasy start because again your number one quarterback doesn't have a good matchup or is hurt, you could do a lot worse than Taylor in this week 2 matchup against the Saints.
For sure. It's going to be a fun one to watch. I can't wait to watch that game. And, that takes us into Sunday afternoon now. We talked about the Lions a little bit earlier. They have to go down to San Francisco and play the 49ers. They didn't look so good either, but the 49ers, I think, they're 5.5-point favorites in this game, and I have no problem taking them with that. Garoppolo, I think, is probably going to have a feast against this Lions defense. They were absolutely horrendous. And I like Jimmy G as a decent backup this week. I think I got him ranked at number 12 or 11 or something like that. Let's see here. I have him ranked at 13. So, he's got a decent matchup. And Marquise Goodwin's a great receiver. He's questionable. If he does play in this game, I think Marquise Goodwin's a great start. And I actually mentioned this in my article as well. I think that Matt Breida is a super awesome sleeper play this week. He's just the best back in San Francisco, at least to me, and I think you can expect good things out of him. So, Matt Breida's got off to a slow start last week, but, he did have to go against the Vikings defense. This week he gets to go against, well, let's be honest, the shitty Detroit Lions defense. They gave up 169 yards rushing to the Jets. So, start Breida this week. I think it's going to be a breakout week for him.
Yeah, it's a good call there. Here's my thoughts on this game is you've got a Detroit Lions head coach who knows Jimmy Garoppolo very well from their time at New England.
True.
You would think that, Patricia's going to have a good game plan against Garoppolo, but this Detroit Lions team looks like they could be in for a long, long season. There are reports coming out of Detroit that the players are just fuming. They don't like his coaching style. He's kind of the old school gruff guy, and so he's losing the locker room and training camp. And during the OTAs, he had guys who would, drop a pass, whatever, run laps. And that's just the kind of thing coaches should not be doing anymore, because you got such precious time with your players out because of the collective bargaining agreement, and you're wasting it by disciplining players by running laps as opposed to doing reps. That's just ridiculous. And so there are also complaints that he was really playing his players too hard during preseason and so forth. So things are not looking good for the Lions right now. I expect the 49ers to have a much better execution of their offensive playbook this weekend. I expect Garoppolo to have a bounce back game. He did not look good against the Vikings in Minnesota. He was missing a lot of reads. His progression was not good. If Jimmy Garoppolo is for real, he should be able to take advantage of this Lions team that is demoralized and not playing well. I think the 49ers win this game outright. I think they covered the spread, and I think that you look at your 49ers players on your roster, if you've got any, and you seriously consider starting them.
For sure, and I mentioned Marquise Goodwin. If he does not play in this game, I think Pierre Garçon is an even better start. Pierre Garçon looks like he's finally healthy, so with Goodwin out of the picture, keep an eye on that. If he's gone, then look for Garçon to have a nice week here. And I would avoid as many Lions as you can. I would not roll with Stafford. He looked deflated, and maybe Golden Tate is probably your best option there because he's going to get a lot of volume, but I wouldn't even touch Marvin Jones or Kenny Golladay this week.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I've got some problems because I got Stafford as my quarterback on both of my fantasy teams, and I got Tate as a starting receiver on one of my teams. So if the Lions are not going to turn things around here, I'm going to be calling people over and start making some trades. Yeah. Hey, Stafford is ready to bounce back.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Too bad everyone in our league is going to listen to this.
And that is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. But, well, we both like the 49ers there. No brainer. The next one, is pretty clear-cut as well. But the Cardinals got to go down to play the Rams in L.A. And the Cardinals are getting 13.5 points here. So I think with that 13.5 points, that's a lot of points. I think I have to take the Cardinals with the spread, and I'd like the Rams to win. But the Cardinals didn't look so good last week either.
Yeah, they did not. Their defense is, I guess they've got a new team down there, so it's taking them some time to get acquainted with that. I don't think this is a good matchup for them to make some corrections on their defense. You know what? Even with this large of a spread, given that this game is at LA, I still like the Rams. I think they're going to pummel the Cardinals here. So I'm picking the Rams to win outright and to cover the spread.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of points put up by the Rams for sure. And Todd Gurley's obviously another monster start here. Jared Goff, he didn't look great the other day. I mean, he had moments. I'm not super high on Jared Goff. I think he's a guy you got to wait and see before you can trust him every week. But I do think Cooper Kupp is a fantastic start here. Same thing with Robert Woods. This receiving core is very talented. Brandon Cooks, too. I mean, I think if you can get any piece of that, I think these guys are definitely a solid wide receiver 3, and Cooper Kupp maybe into the wide receiver 2 territory.
Hey, I'm looking for Sam Bradford on your top 20 list of the quarterbacks. I don't see him. Why not?
That's because he stinks.
I have to agree with that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, are there any Arizona players that you do have as a start this week?
Yeah, I still think you got to roll with. Jesus, I'm drawing a blank here. You got to roll with Larry Fitzgerald because
and David Johnson, obviously.
Well, yeah, David Johnson you're going to start because he's just a stud. I think he's going to still get his touches here, but I like Larry Fitz because he's going to get a lot of targets in the passing game, and I mean someone's got to catch the ball. I think it's going to be David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald. I don't think anyone else is even worth touching. So those are the two guys. But outside of that, I'm avoiding the Cardinals completely.
And I noticed you've got the Rams as your number 1 ranked defense for the week, so I think that's a great call.
Yeah, I mean, Bradford's just very susceptible to turnovers, and, I think this Rams defense is going to be all over the place. They made the Raiders look silly. They made John Gruden look like a bum, so the Raiders defense is just absolutely explosive. They have great corners. They've got great everything. So Aaron Donald is a force in the middle, and I think it's going to be a long day for Sam Bradford. I would not be surprised to see his knee get smashed again.
Yeah, he's a long history of injuries. Yeah, and so that's not fake surprise if it happens.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, that's a pretty straightforward game there, and the next game here is going to be an awesome one. The Patriots got to go down to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. Currently, the Patriots are 1-point favorites here, obviously because that defense in Jacksonville is so good. I still like the Patriots. I have such a hard time picking against Tom Brady in these close games, but I think it's going to be an awesome game to watch. Obviously, you're rolling with guys like Rob Gronkowski, and on the Jacksonville side of the ball, if Leonard Fournette plays, he's questionable with a hamstring injury. If he plays, you're going to roll with him. And then if he doesn't, TJ Yeldon is a great start here, who he's available in majority of leagues too. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
We're recording this on Wednesday night. What have you heard the latest on Leonard Fournette?
I mean, the latest I've heard is that he's trending towards playing. They're saying the injury is not as bad as it seemed, but it's so early in the week. It's still kind of hard to tell. I think the telltale sign is if he practices on Friday. I think if he practices Friday, he'll probably give it a go.
Yeah, and so the reason I ask, because if Fournette plays in this game, I think that the Jaguars, while still losing, will cover. Because what is it? The Patriots, you said, are giving away 2?
It's 1.
1. Oh, okay. I must have an old sheet here. In any case, this is a tough one. I think that the Patriots are definitely going to win outright. And given that it's 1, I think that the Patriots will cover on this. So I'm picking the Patriots to win and to cover the spread. I do believe that Leonard Fournette is a big, huge factor in this game. If he plays and is close to 100%, and this game could turn around. Given that it's at Jacksonville, but it's hard to bet. You say it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. I say it's hard to bet against the New England head coach. But
yeah,
because the type of guy who, he figures out a way. You beat him once, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to beat you. And so he and Brady will come up with a game plan here that I think is going to be very successful. You'll see Brady getting rid of the ball quickly. Rob Gronkowski is going to have a big game, I believe, and I think that the Patriots are going to win this game outright.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's worth noting the Patriots had some injuries. One big injury last week. Running back Jeremy Hill tore his ACL and he's out for the season. So I think that moves guys like Rex Burkhead up a little bit and James White. But they also signed some guys too, wide receivers. They signed Benny Fowler and they signed Corey Coleman, who was just recently cut by the Bills. So Corey Coleman's an interesting one to watch. He's got a lot of talent, but it's just a matter of if he can get that work ethic in.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I like James White as a sleeper pick. This is the guy who is, since 2016, has averaged over 4 yards a carry. He had a great career down at Wisconsin, averaging over 6 yards per carry. I just see that he is going to get some work in this game. I thought he played well in week 1. James White is an interesting consideration if you need a running back this week. Take a look at him and give him consideration of plugging them into your lineup.
Yeah, and he's available in the majority of leagues too, and he's a PPR, even better in PPR leagues. So yeah, I think he's going to be part of this game plan for sure.
And Julian Edelman is still out because of suspension, so that helps White's prospects for catching those short passes and picking up some yards after the catch.
Yeah.
So give White a look.
Yep, and Julian Edelman suspended until week 4, so he's got 3 more games to serve. So yeah, they need some wide receiving help right now. So look for James White definitely to get involved there. And our last afternoon game on Sunday is the Raiders going down to play the Broncos in Denver. The Raiders, they had a great first half and they were absolutely horrendous in the second half. The Broncos defense was all over the field and they looked pretty good. So I like the Broncos here. They're 5.5 point favorites. So I'm taking the Broncos to win and to cover. So that Broncos defense is just really tough.
Yeah, they are. And Derek Carr did not look good. I think there's going to be some growing pains with his relationship with John Gruden. I'm not a big fan of the John Gruden signing. These guys who leap game after many years and their success when they were NFL head coaches, that was kind of iffy. I know he's got a Super Bowl title, but it just all seemed that Gruden was at the right place at the right time. And in listening to him over the years in the announce booth, I always wondered, this guy was really an NFL head coach. And so, given the terrible start he had with leading this team and the whole Khalil Mack situation, and every time he talks about the Mack situation, he just keeps putting his foot deeper and deeper into his mouth. I think this is a bad game for the Raiders. Not only do I think they lose, I think the Broncos cover the spread, and I'd be reluctant to pick the Raiders for winning. I'm not looking at their schedule, but be wary of betting on the Raiders this season, at least for the first half of the season.
Yeah, Tooch actually called last week that he thinks they're going to go 0-16. So that's a tough prediction right there for a multi-million-dollar coach. So. Yeah, I wouldn't touch any Raiders in this game fantasy wise. I would not even go with Amari Cooper. Marshawn Lynch was not good last week, and he's going to do even worse this week. That Broncos run defense was stout last week. I expect them to be all year long. But on the Broncos side of the ball, I think one of my starts of the week last week was Emmanuel Sanders. He's on that list again. I mean, he went absolutely off last week. I mean, that guy is an absolute machine. We called it earlier in the season. When he's healthy, he's incredible. He had 10 catches last week for 135 yards and a touchdown. I think more of the same is coming. So watch out for Emmanuel Sanders. And I even think Case Keenum's a decent sleeper start here. I know he had some interceptions last week, but that Raiders defense is not very good.
Yeah, Case really had a clean pocket to deal with most of that game, and so I expect more of the same this week. I don't think he's going to throw interceptions like he did. I expect a really good game out of him, and I'm with you on this game. No disagreements on anything.
Yeah, and then one last note: Royce Freeman, the rookie running back. I know you're a fan because you think he's on your squad, Aldo. I like him. I like him in this game too. I think I got him ranked number 21. I think he's going to do good things here. This might be the week that he finally breaks out and has a nice game. That Oakland can't stop the run, and I think Royce Freeman is going to keep things moving here. So definitely a guy to watch out for because he's going to be an awesome every down power back in this league.
Well, and I also have Emmanuel Sanders, so nice things about Sanders.
There you go.
Excellent.
So yeah, we like the Broncos hands down in this one, and that takes us into Sunday night. A big rivalry gang. The Giants going to play the Cowboys in Dallas. Cowboys looked absolutely lost last week. Dak Prescott looks like he's lost 300 steps. He cannot throw an accurate ball. I don't know what's going on with Dak Prescott, but the Giants are getting 3 points. The Cowboys somehow are 3-point favorites. I don't know how. I'm taking the Giants +3.
This is a game that I'm anxious to take a look at. The Saquon Barkley versus Ezekiel Elliott. That's just a fantasy football matchup made in heaven.
Love it.
Yeah, who do you have ranked? Who's going to have a better game according to your rankings here?
According to my rankings, it's pretty close. But I got Saquon ranked at 3 and Ezekiel Elliott ranked at 4. So I think both these guys are going to have big games for sure.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I think both of these guys, when they came out of college, the type of back that you consider transcendent backs, not only for the NFL game but for fantasy football. You gotta draft them high. Barkley, I had him penned. If I would have had a mid-first round draft pick and Barkley would have fallen to me, I would have quickly gobbled him up and may have even considered him as high as number 4 or 5 in any of the leagues I was drafting. I think this guy is going to be that dual back who's going to, in PPR leagues, he's just going to rack up tons of points. He had an excellent debut, over 100 yards rushing. I think, Elliott is an excellent back. The problem with Elliott, the challenge that he's going to face is Dak Prescott's execution. That is a troubling sight with what's going on with this kid, and we'll see. This is a huge game. It's at Dallas, so potentially Prescott will have a bounce-back game and play well, but I'm not totally sold on Dak Prescott right now.
Yeah, neither am I. He looked so rough, and because of that, I'm not touching any other Cowboys beside Ezekiel Elliott because I liked Michael Gallup a lot last week, but Dak Prescott just couldn't get anybody the ball. So let's wait and see for how he develops this week. But I'm staying away for now. But Odell Beckham Jr. on the Giants side of the ball is my number 2 wide receiver this week. Odell looked awesome last week, and that secondary for Dallas didn't look very good. So I'm liking what Odell's going to do this week. I think it's going to be lots of fantasy points for the Giants here.
I totally agree, Odell. I'm drawing a blank on the other wide receiver for the Giants.
Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard. I expect good things out of Shepard as well. 60 to 80 yards, a lot of underneath stuff. So, yeah, if you've got Giants players, they're good plays this week. It's the game's at Dallas. It's going to be one of those games where I think you're going to see a lot of fantasy points piled up in the fourth quarter as one of these teams is going to be playing catch up. It's going to be a fun game. I'm with you on who's going to win this game and your fantasy picks.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention Evan Ingram at tight end. He's number 6 at tight end for me. Like I said, Giants are just going to go off in this game. So I'm excited to watch this one Sunday night, and I'm a little bit more excited, though, for the game on Monday, although I'm going to be going. And the Seahawks are coming to Soldier Field to play the Bears. Bears are currently sitting as 3-point favorites at home. I'm taking the Bears to cover that.
Yeah, it was interesting. One of the Vegas betting services had them at 3 points immediately after, even before the Bears played their Sunday night game. It was interesting how Vegas did that. So I don't know what the thinking was there, but yeah, this is going to be a interesting game. I do suspect that Mitch Trubisky at quarterback is going to have a bounce back game. I think that the kind of play you saw out of him in that first quarter, I think he's going to sustain that more throughout the 4 quarters. There was some issues. He missed Allen Robinson on a touchdown pass down the right sideline in the end zone. He missed Trey Burton open down the middle of the field. I don't think that we're going to see those kinds of mistakes in this Week 2 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, who outside of Earl Thomas and Bobby Wagner on the defense are have some defensive issues. They're not going to pressure Trubisky much if Bears offensive line shows up to play. I like the Bears to win this game and to cover the 3 points or 3.5 points, whatever it is. So this is definitely going to be a fun game for Bears fans.
Oh yeah, so you're rolling with Jordan Howard, you're rolling with Trey Burton, you're rolling with Allen Robinson, and I think in a bit of a sleeper role, you can probably roll with in a flex if you want to be an at-homer fantasy player. I think Anthony Miller might be a sneaky play here. He didn't do much last week, but I think he's so far off everyone's radar. I think he might make some people pay.
Yeah, I would rather go with Tariq Cohen as a flex start than Anthony Miller. I want to see, rookie wide receivers have to prove something to me first. I'm still old school, where it takes a couple of seasons for rookie wide receivers to prove themselves. Clearly, there have been some huge exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, I take that cautious approach with starting rookie wide receivers in fantasy. Yeah. I like Tariq Cohen, and particularly in PPR leagues. I think he's going to be good for probably close to 60 to 80 all-purpose yards and a touchdown. So look for Tariq Cohen as a really strong flex play.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think on the Seattle side of the ball, if you have Russell Wilson, you're probably going to play him. But I think it's a really tough matchup for him. I mean, he's got to go against his Bears defense, and Russell was running for his life last week too, and I think he's going to be running even more for his life this week. And his favorite target, Doug Baldwin, had a bad knee injury last week. They don't know how long he's going to be out. So that makes Tyler Lockett their number one wide receiver. So I think Wilson and Lockett are probably the only guys I'm touching here. Rashad Penny is eventually going to be the starter, but he's not right now. So I wouldn't even touch the run game. I think Russell Wilson and, Tyler Lockett are the only guys you can even consider. And I think the Bears take this one by at least a touchdown.
I would consider Brandon Marshall if you're in need of a wide receiver. This is one of those games where I could see him getting 40 yards receiving, but a touchdown coming back to Soldier Field. He kind of picked up the slack after Baldwin left the game, so I think he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver with Lockett on the other side. He's a consideration. Again, it all depends on who you have on your roster. And as for Russell Wilson, he's a guy, you probably drafted him as your number 1 quarterback, and so he's probably a guy you have to start depending on who your backup is. But boy, he was not impressive in that week 1 loss. He was sacked 6 times. Both the head coach of the team and Russell admitted that 2 or 3 of those sacks were on Russell. He was just holding on to the ball too long, and Russell admittedly did not play a good game. So I think there's, with so many key ingredients gone, Paul Richardson, Jimmy Graham, now Doug Baldwin and so forth, I think Wilson's going to be in for a tough start to this season. So if you are an owner of Russell Wilson, hopefully you're prepared to kind of go through a few weeks of some toughness before he gets back to the kind of fantasy football quarterback we saw last year.
Yeah, you're playing the wire if you got Russell Wilson right now. You got to get a quality backup. There's a handful of them out there, so definitely check the waiver wire. But yeah, Russell Wilson's in for some tough times ahead. But although we made it through all the games, and now it's time quickly to run through Tooch's picks. Tooch sent me his picks from the Philippines. Thank you, Tooch. You're the man. Calling in all the way from the Philippines. I'll quickly run through them here. He's taking San Francisco, Denver, New England, Dallas. He's taking the Bears, of course. And let's see what else. The Browns, the Jets, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Redskins. So John is looking pretty good here. Hoping we can get some more wins out of him. But Tooch is coming back in a couple weeks. Aldo, it was awesome having you here, man. And anything else you want to last minute talk about for this week coming up?
Well, I just want to thank you and Tooch for putting this excellent fantasy football show on the Bears Barroom Radio Network. You guys definitely know your stuff. You bring not only information, but you do it in an entertaining fashion. I know I can't fill Tooch's shoes, but it was fun trying. I do want to say that Tooch is crazy for picking the Chiefs over the Steelers. I understand his motivation. He's a Patrick Mahomes lover, just like me.
He is.
And I think he's got Patrick Mahomes on his fantasy roster. So I bet that there's a little bit of a feeling of, I need my quarterback to have a great game against Pittsburgh, so I'm going to pick them to beat the Steelers. But I hope, Tooch, you're having a great time on your vacation in the Philippines. Hurry back safely with your lovely family. And again, Joe, thanks for having me on your show.
Hey, no problem. Although it's been amazing. And for everyone listening, make sure you tune into the Barfly Tailgate Show on Sunday mornings on the Bears Barroom Radio Network. It's streaming live on Mixlr Sunday mornings. Tooch and myself, as well as a bunch of awesome Barflies, are on that show, and we're answering fantasy football questions. We're talking about the Bears pregame, so definitely tune in for that and ask us your live questions, because we answer questions all year long. Although it's been amazing, looking forward to the second week of football coming up, starting tomorrow with Thursday Night Football. And man, ready for football, baby. God bless America, God bless football, and let's kick some ass.